now, Brawlers, today we're going to take a look at the 7th hero from AEG. Psst, you're the 7th hero. Well, what this is, the theme of the game is that you are trying to assemble a team of 6 unique heroes, and you're trying to make sure that the evil bad guy, like the Dark Overlord, doesn't infiltrate your ranks with these shape-shifting minions of his. That sounds like a really epic story for what is essentially a very light card game. Let's just go ahead and do a brief overview of the game, then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think. Okay, let's take a quick look at the 7th hero from AEG. This is a competitive card game for 3 to 5 players, and the goal is to have a set of 6 unique heroes in front of you, and that will trigger the end of the game. You will be the winner. But that is easier said than done. This entire deck of cards is made up of hero cards. There's 77 cards total. There's 11 cards each of 7 unique heroes. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 2 heroes off the top of the deck, put face up in front of them. Let's just assume a 3-player game in this example. So here are the 2 cards for each player. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is look out at all the cards that you first get dealt out and make sure that you don't have any doubles. If you have doubles, you're going to shuffle them back into the deck and draw until you don't have doubles anymore. In this case, we're all good. Everyone's got 2 unique heroes in front of them. Then each player is going to get a hand of 5 cards. You'll decide who's going to go first, and the gameplay begins. Now before I go over what's all the stuff is on all these cards, let's just walk you through how a basic turn is going to go. At the start of your turn, you're going to flip over the top card of the deck. You're going to ignore almost everything on the card except for the bottom text. On the bottom text of all of these hero cards is a quest condition. This is something that the current player needs to fulfill in order to complete a quest. So in this case, the domination of the Shadow Lord. It says needed hero number 3 through 5. What that player is going to do is you're going to look at the hand of cards that you have, and up in the top corner of these cards, you have a number. Now, in order to fulfill this quest condition, you're going to have to find a hero from your hand that's numbered 3 through 5. So, you see I have 2 things that meet the requirements here, this 4 and this 5. I have to choose one of those, and I'm going to have to put it face down on the table and pass it over to the next player clockwise as a wandering hero. This card is now considered a wandering hero, and I keep it face down when I pass it to the next player. Now, before we go any further, if I did not have a card that met that quest requirement in my hand, I would have to look down at my tableau of heroes that I start off with, and if one of them met the condition, I'd have to pass them along. So in this case, the Oracle would have, and I would pass the Oracle along if I didn't have one in my hand. If I still can't meet the condition from the heroes I have out in front of me, then I'd have to take a card randomly off the top of the deck, and even I would not be able to look at it, and I would pass that along as a wandering hero. Now, it's very important that this stuff remains hidden because the theme of the game is that you're trying to have a unique set of heroes in front of you. The reason for this is because, and bear with me here, there's an evil overlord, and the evil overlord has sent out like shape-shifting minions who can take the appearance of one of the 6 or 7 unique heroes in the game. And if that happens, and if you accidentally recruit one of these minions of evil into your team of heroes, the minion finds the real thing, and they kill each other, which, mechanically speaking, means both cards go to the discard pile. So when a wandering hero goes to a player, they have a choice to make right then and there. Do they decide to recruit that hero, or do they pass it along? Now, there's a couple things that go into their decision. First off, they can look at the board, and they can look at the condition, and they can kind of make a choice as to whether or not they might actually be able to recruit that hero and not have it kill a copy of the exact same hero in their team. In this case, the condition is 3 through 5. So they know that that hero has got to be a 3 through 5. So because there's no other shenanigans that took place, that's got to be the rule. So, being that this player only has a 1 and 2, that's a pretty safe bet. So that person's going to decide, okay, I'm going to recruit that hero. Look, it's a 4. I'm good. No problems whatsoever. I'm now 1 step closer to my goal. Now, the next player is going to flip over a card. And that player is going to say, all right, number of players or higher. So this is a 3-player game. So you need to have either a 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So that's a pretty wide gamut here. So again, that player, let's just assume this is that player's hand as well, is going to decide to pass along a 5. All right, but this player doesn't know that. So this card gets passed along, and now this player has to decide. am I going to take that card? Well, the spread is pretty big here. That's a 4, 5, or I'm sorry, a 3 through 7. And I already have a 4 or 5 out here. So there's some pretty good odds that this is going to be a card that is going to kill one of my 2 heroes. This card actually is a 4 or a 5. So I have a few different options here. I could just decide to pass it along to the next player. I could risk it and try to recruit it. Or I can try to get a hint. Now, one thing I should mention before I go any further is that if a card passes it along all the way back to the original player who passed it, that player, the active player, is forced to take that card and recruit it, which might be a good thing if you plan it that way all along. If you pass along a card that you don't have, hoping it gets back to you, congratulations, you are winner. But if you're any other player and you don't want to take that card, but you might want to take that card, you can try to get a hint. In order to get a hint, you're going to take another card from your hand and you're going to pass it secretly to the player who originally started passing that wandering hero. That player is going to look at the card and is going to say either yes or no. If they say yes, then the card that you pass along to them is a copy of the card that is being passed as a wandering hero. If they say no, then the card that you pass for a hint is not the same as the card that is passing along as the wandering hero. And you can ask for as many hints as you want. You could pass 5 cards if you wanted to in order to try and get perfect information about this card. And at the end of all that, you can decide, okay, you know what? I'm not going to recruit it. Here, boom. It's your problem. That's how this game is working. You're going to constantly be passing around wandering heroes, trying to deduct whether it's a hero you can actually take and successfully recruit without anything ill happening to you, and try to claim 6 heroes before everyone else. But you might be saying, Nick, what about all that other text on the card? Well, let's get to that right now. You see, every hero, aside from having a unique number, also has a unique power, so I'll go through each of those right now. The Shield Maiden, who is the number 1 card, her special ability, and, well, since I'm not a big corporation and Wizards can't sue me, I'll just say that in order to use a special ability, you have to tap it. And it doesn't reset ever for the rest of the game, except if another special ability lets you do so. So the Shield Maiden here says that you can nullify an ability as an interrupt. So if someone else tries to hit you with a nasty ability, you can immediately turn her sideways, and boom, you can cancel that ability. The Worm Slayer says you can discard the Wandering Hero. So you play this, wherever the Wandering Hero is, he immediately goes to the discard pile. That's the end of that. The Chieftain lets you renew one of your hero's abilities by, of course, exhausting him. The Outcast, another player of your choice, cannot recruit the Wandering Hero. So when someone is about to recruit the Wandering Hero, you can just force that player to pass him along to the next guy. The Oracle lets you look at the Wandering Hero, which is extremely powerful. The Tail Weaver lets you send any hero along of your choice, regardless of what the quest condition is. You could even look at the quest condition and say, oh, I can successfully meet that, and use the Tail Weaver anyways, because just to throw off your opponents and bluff them. And the Forest Rider lets you draw 2 cards into your hand. Always just use that right away. That's my opinion. Now, there is a little bit of variation here. You can use a variant in the rules where you are not allowed to use people's special abilities until before someone decides whether or not to finally take the card or not. That's a little awkward. Let me phrase that another way. When a Wandering Hero gets passed around to a player, they have to, before they make their final decision, they'll just keep their hand on the card and say, I've made my decision. Is anyone else want to try and stop me from doing this? At that point, players are allowed to use their special abilities, like making him discard it, or making him pass it along, or looking at the hero, or whatever it might be. But once that player flips over the card and decides to pass it along, it's too late at that point. So that kind of stops some screwage there. That's a variant you can do if you want. But that's really the game. It's not too complicated. You're just trying to pass along cards, trying to take the ones that you think are best for you in order to get 6 heroes, and of course, you are the 7th hero. Now, AEG has become pretty well known in the last year for importing Japanese card games and giving them a makeover, whether it's different artwork, better components, so on. And so it is with the 7th hero. In this case, I'm not sure how much the card stock or the box has changed, but the artwork is all different. And that's probably my biggest beef with this game, is that I actually had a chance to look at some of the original artwork of the game, and I really, really wish they hadn't changed it. But look, I'm a sucker for anime artwork. That's just the way it's going to be. I can't say that the new artwork for this is bad. It's certainly not. I mean, it's very well done artwork, but just seeing the old artwork, I wish I could go back. I mean, this artwork looks like cheesy, Larry Elmore-esque type Dungeons & Dragons artwork from the 80s, and that's just not my style. It's just not. Other people, I'm sure, are going to disagree with me and love the fact that they changed it, but hopefully they do the same thing that they did with the by re-releasing the original version of Love Letter. Maybe if this game is popular enough over here, they're going to release the original artwork version. But anyways, that's a bit of a quibble. The fact is, the game itself is really, really fun. It's odd, that's for sure. I didn't really know what to expect from it. Having played a lot of different Japanese micro games, or just not micro games, but smaller card games, I kind of got used to a certain play style. Maybe it's a game of just, figuring out economy, or just sort of a take that, or just bluffing, deduction, games like Love Letter, Lost Legacy, or deck building. Japanese game designers love deck building. This is none of that. This is really, it is a bit of deduction, but it's really unlike any card game I've played recently. The whole idea of you have to build this team, but you can't take doubles. In a way, it's a very abstract game. I kind of joked about the theme in my intro, and it's not a joke. There's not really a theme here. You could easily re-theme this as anything that you want, and that's fine. It really doesn't detract from the game. But the idea of having this wandering hero going around from person to person, and you have to guess whether or not you actually want to let him in, that's cool. It's not terribly thematic, but it's a neat idea. And having to just push your luck aside, ooh, there's like a 33% chance. I mean, that hero is going to be one of 3 things, and it's 2 of those things I really need, and 1 of them I don't, so what do I do? And I don't have the cards to give a hint right now, or maybe I do have the cards to give a hint, but do I really want to waste my cards to give a hint when I can just pass it along? But if I pass it along, that guy's definitely going to take it, and that sucks because that puts him closer to victory. These are the kind of decisions that go on in this game. And while, of course, it is random, I mean, this is a card game, and what you get stuck with is what you get stuck with. I mean, there's just sometimes you just can't do much of anything. There is still a level of strategy and a bit of bluffing here that I appreciate. For instance, when the one ability that lets you play whatever you want, when you're required to, when the rule tells you that you have to play a hero between 1 and 3, or a hero with an odd number, but then you activate, I think it's a Dreamweaver, something like that. You activate his ability, and then you can just play whatever cards you want. That just throws everything out of whack, but of course, you could activate his ability and just throw down the card that the original rule required you to do, just to bluff out the other players. There's neat things like that in the game. Now, what I will say is that the game is better with a smaller amount of players. Not necessarily the smallest amount, which is 3. I guess you could even, the game box says 3. I don't know if there's a lot stopping you from playing it with 2, but I certainly wouldn't try it. I think that 3 or 4 is probably the sweet spot for this. I've only played it with 4 or 5, but even with so I don't know for sure that 3 is going to be the best way, but I know that with a smaller amount of players, you can get more of that bluffing and more of that interaction going on. And also, if you're the 5th player in a go-around, it's very unlikely. I mean, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. If you're passing the person around, the wandering hero, even if you think that there's a reasonable chance that no one else wants to take that hero, the odds are still against you that it's going to come back to you, and you might want it to. You might pass along a hero thinking no one else is going to take it, but you need it, so it'll go into your array of heroes. But then, by being, with too many players in the game, that is just way, way unlikely. It gets exponentially more unlikely that's going to happen, because even if no one else should take it, someone's going to do something stupid and take it. And while that may screw them, it also screws you. So there is that interesting little bit there that can backfire on you. I like all the special abilities. I think I do encourage playing with the variant in the back of the book that says that if you choose to use, or if a wandering hero comes in front of you, you make a decision as to whether or not you're going to take it or not, and then you give everyone else an opportunity to actually use an ability on you, rather than just say, okay, I'm taking it, and then after you flip the card over, someone gets to say, I'm going to make you discard it or pass it along. I like it better giving everyone a chance to react before you flip over the card and lock in your decision. it slows things down a little bit, but it also kind of takes away some of the take that, totally screw you aspect of the game, which is a good thing. Because if everyone can just do those screw you tactics when you flip the card over, then it just becomes pile up on, you know, whoever's in the lead. But without that, you might want to save your special ability. This requires a little bit of everyone being on the same page, because it can get a little clunky where people are just like, okay, I'm going to take it. Wait, you didn't give everyone a chance to use their ability. Things like that. So everyone needs to be on board. Everyone needs to know how to bluff and say, okay, I've made my decision. And stay stone-faced and not let on whether you're going to take it or not. But that's the interesting thing about this game. There's that little bit of interaction here that is not just the numbers on the cards. It's actually, you know, being able to read your opponent and but also reading the cards at the same time. Reading your opponent and reading the cards, figuring out what everyone has in front of them and what they're most likely to take or not take. I enjoy this game. It surprised me. You know, I don't know what's in the water over there, but I am a kick of Japanese card games that just work. They're just smooth and they're fun, and you know, there's not a lot of meat to them, but there's enough there to keep it interesting. So I highly recommend the 7th Hero, and I can't wait to play it again. My name is Nick. This has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.